mother was never strong enough. You surpass her in every way.
Be careful. Your head is in the lion's mouth.
Isabella Fitzwilliam. I could ruin her with one sentence.
What do you want?
You friends of high standing.
How many men have you had?
I'm a harlot. I don't keep count.
Oh, and we don't keep count of what episode this is. Just kidding. It's 270. 70. Nailed it.
We're Cordkillers. We don't keep count. Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, man, I'm Brian Brushwood, and that was the introduction to Harlots, which what's funny is rarely, usually Bryce picks the opening trailers, and I just know the out point that we're starting the episode.
Oh, yeah.
And so the only clue I had is that it was called Harlots, and that it said, I don't keep count. So I went on this whole journey. Then when it started off British and Victorian as hell, I was like, oh, wait, I thought it was about going to be how many people they had sex with.
Yeah.
So it can't be that. and then 30 seconds later, I was like, no, it's exactly that.
That's coming to Hulu July 10th.
Okay, right on, man.
It's about harlots. No, it's about Margaret Wells, who runs a brothel in 18th century England and struggles to raise her daughters in a chaotic household.
If you're like, man, I love Downton Abbey and the Kinsey Report, perfect show for you.
Maybe a little bit of girls sprinkled on top, I assume.
Yeah, maybe. Little Victorian era girls.
Yeah.
Let them eat avocado toast.
All right. Well, folks, we have important journalistic integrity to hold up. I shouldn't be giving my real opinion about Dark Phoenix or where the X-Men franchise is going because I have it in the movie draft, but I'm going to set those feelings aside for our primary target.
I wonder what it's about.
How Dark Phoenix opened to $33 million, the worst opening of an X-Men title by far. The estimates are already that it'll lose $100 million for its new owner, Disney. This was the end of this version of the X-Men anyway. They weren't planning to continue in this storyline, but Variety suggests that maybe Disney should give it a break. They think, there's a lot of talk about franchise fatigue. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. Maybe this is an example of franchise fatigue for real. Filming of Dark Phoenix ended 2 years ago, and Fox moved the date several times over the years. So it's not like Fox was not going to be surprised by this. What do we think they should do with the X-Men? Because a lot of the excitement around Disney acquiring 20th Century Fox, the movie, was getting back the rights for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to the things that Fox owned, namely Fantastic Four and X-Men.
So I'm probably not qualified outside of as putting on my hat as a regular consumer to chime in on this. But before we talk about what they should do, can we speculate wildly about how we got where we are? It was... man, it's hard for me to even remember all of this, but there was X-Men, and then there was X2, which was really good, and then X3, Professor X died without seeming for any good reason or whatever, and then all of a sudden we went to the past, which I thought was totally cool. X-Men First Class, a reboot, all that stuff, but then we
hold on. What about X-Men Origins? Wolverine.
Okay. So look, those are solo graphic novels. They existed in their own little capsule,
like Logan.
Correct. So some of them were good, some of them less so, right? Okay, sidebar within a sidebar. There was somebody who tweeted out recently, like, just a list of all the X-Men movies in order from best to worst. And I was deeply upset that Logan showed up at number 3 and that so many people were agreeing with this person. But then I realized, wait, if you're going to rate X-Men movies, you really can't put Logan as the number 1. Considering it only has two X-Men.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I forgave that. But so we went on this journey, and I liked the reboot. I didn't follow the follow-ups after that. And I just fell off because forgive me for getting philosophical. I think what it means to get old and die is to be at a party, and you're at a party and you love the music and you're connecting with everyone and you're having great friends. And then at some point the music gets weirder and you recognize fewer and fewer people at the party, and you just look around, you're like, what is I don't, you know what, I'm just going to catch a ride and go home. I think that's what it means to be in your late 80s, right? That's kind of how I'm feeling right now with the X-Men franchise, which I think, to bring us back to the original question of where should they go, what they should go is remind us of what's great about each individual character. I want to watch a Cyclops movie with only Cyclops. I want to watch a Jean Grey movie with only Jean Grey. I want to watch an Iceman movie with only Iceman. Because they nailed it so hard with Logan. I watched it again with my 11-year-old. I think we talked about this last week, just crying the entire time. Great stories exist in every single one of these characters. What you do is you replicate the exact formula that worked so well for the Avengers, only with the X-Men. Remind me why I should fall in love with this person, this person, this person, this person. And the last character you bring back is now in her 20s, Laura X-23 from Logan as the new Wolverine. And then you bring us the Avengers experience with the X-Men.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. It would complicate things in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to do that, because that's an X-Men cinematic universe. And so, but maybe that's what they should do, is just be like, you know what, they'll exist in the same universe, but we won't cross them over all the time, right? Kind of the way they're doing Deadpool within the X-Men cinematic universe, right? Deadpool exists in the X-Men universe, but not really, right? It doesn't cross over into the other movies a lot.
He exists, and yet just their paths never seem to cross.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be honest,
you could do that with the X-Men. I sort of wonder if you shouldn't just wipe this whole slate clean. I get the attraction of tying back into Logan, don't get me wrong. But I don't think you need to give the franchise a break. This isn't even disagreeing with your notion. This is a yes, and you don't need to do a break to do that. Nobody said, man, I don't know, we've had 2 Spider-Mans and they haven't all been great. Let's hold off. They just were like, no, we're going with Tom Holland. We won't tell the origin story anymore, and we'll just put him in Captain America: Civil War. So maybe you just say, you know what, we've got the X-Men character set now to play with in the MCU. Let's figure out where it works best. And it could be some movies that are solos, like you say. It could be just having them show up in other movies. The problem is X-Men isn't like the Avengers in that we had these super strong characters that came together to form the Avengers, where everybody's like, yeah, I want to see a Hulk movie. So I wonder if people would not be as interested in a Storm movie or a Jean Grey movie or even a Wolverine movie.
That is a legitimate counterpoint, in that the weakest part of my theory is that it is baked into the X-Men story that each of these characters were lost children, and it was the school that brought them together. I don't know that I want to watch the Iceman movie about an 11-year-old kid who freezes things, although maybe that'd be great. Who knows?
But there is the precedent of Spider-Man: Homecoming saying, you know what? We're not gonna bother with that anymore. We're not gonna go back and retell that story. He's already Spider-Man. Now we throw him into the MCU. So maybe you could have Iceman show up in the MCU and be like, oh yeah, I'm part of this cool school thing.
Or what if Iceman is 24 years old, and he's just out in the world, and then there's references like, weren't you in that school? And they said like and he just says, I'm taking a break year. Or what are the kids called?
I graduated.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, he's like, I'm taking a year off. And then just give us an adventure with Iceman and let us love it, right? And then maybe skip over the part where they all have the coming of age moment and they all learn that they have value even though they're mutants or whatever. But all of a sudden, it's the post graduation year off that everybody's taking. Give me 5 of those. And then now they're creeping up on their 30s and they can't believe it, but they've come back together. X-Men class reunion. I'd be all in on that. If you made me fall in love with.
You could do what they did in the first X-Men run and do an X-Men First Class with different actors at some point, if it works, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason you can't decide to go back and do that, because honestly, the X-Men movies didn't start with the origin story. They started with Professor X already running the school and a bunch of the X-Men already there. So they did that already.
keep in mind also, I would caution you from overly worrying about, well, I don't want it to be this character from this movie or whatever, because even Logan did some weird tie-ins. Like they mentioned the Statue of Liberty, which was in the first X-Men movie. And then they mentioned some other stuff that was loosely tied in, but clearly not in the canon of that series. So I don't mind that. Like the idea of 20-something Laura X-23 showing up as the Wolverine. And keep in mind, this partly comes from me looking up trivia while watching Logan again recently and reading Hugh Jackman says, I'm sure they'll reboot the Wolverine at some point, but for now, I would love to imagine that X-23 is the Wolverine. And this would be their opportunity to do that. Show us a bunch of the other characters, and then they all come together.
And there's no reason you can't do both in a world after Avengers Endgame.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, and at this point, I feel like everybody, well, and in a world where we have What If, like what if, What If becomes a super popular show on it's Disney Plus, right? What if becomes huge and we all as a society get cozy with the idea of multiple universes, and then like they don't say, they like, maybe that's one of the questions where it's like, not going to tell you anything about this except for it's about so and so, and you go in not knowing which universe it is. Or imagine this, imagine we get to a place where there are 5 different Wolverines that come together. What if we get into the Wolverine verse? Like, how? I mean, dude, there's so much they can play with here. This would be amazing.
Yeah, and a few people have suggested Disney Plus as a place to restart the franchise, which isn't such a bad idea either. You know, what if you do an Iceman miniseries and then a Phoenix miniseries and a Cyclops miniseries, right? And then you bring them into the cinematic universe from there, which is something that they really didn't have an opportunity to do before, but now they have a platform of that where they can do a 3 or 4 episode series around something and tie it in. I mean, they're doing it in reverse, right? They're taking characters like Loki and Scarlet Witch and bringing them into Disney Plus, but they could do it they could wind it the other way too.
Yeah, and I feel like they could do it in a way that they weren't able to pull off with the Netflix agreement. And I don't know if that's just a side effect of there being several middlemen, you know, the production company and Netflix agreements and entanglements to where maybe it's not lucrative enough to give them their own movies or whatever. But a lot of those barriers are going to be dropped once they start developing everything in-house with Disney Plus.
I'll go even further. I don't think they could do it with ABC. I mean, we saw how Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they had to keep it separate, right? Because of production schedules and the needs of broadcast television. Whereas Disney Plus, they can put it on whenever they want.
Man, the more I'm thinking about this, Tom, the more I'm thinking like it's not just possible. I think it's likely. I think it's the only way to replicate the formula because we can't squeeze out more Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans or I mean, we got what, maybe 2 more movies left with Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy before all of them graduate to other projects. But you can do it from the bottom up, from the ground up. I don't know. I'm optimistic about this. Like that experience we had of the, oh my God, I can't believe what I'm seeing with the Avengers coming together. I'm going to go ahead and plant my flag in the ground and say that the next time we'll get that will be with X-Men.
Could very well be. And Beatmaster points out, so what we're saying is the X-Men will rise like Phoenix from its ashes.
At Disney. Yes. X-Men RIP. Look forward to meeting you, X-Men.
Yes. Man, did you see Dark Phoenix?
No. Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So stayed awake the whole time, did you?
It was fine.
What? Oh. Okay. All right.
Write it down. Record
Bonnie, my wife, tweeted in response to you saying it's fine. She tweeted, "Oh my God, it must be awful for you to say that." And then very quickly somebody piped in. We're like, "Actually, here's his past record of what he calls different movies." And then Bonnie came up to me and was like, "Did I step in something? Did I offend?"
No, that was a fun exchange, to be honest. That was pretty great.
So fine is, I believe, the second worst rating you've ever given any movie publicly.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think I've ever said publicly anything was bad.
Or that you walked out.
And the only thing worse was Walked Out, and that's retroactive, where I'm like, the only movie I've ever actually walked out of was Sister Act. So yeah, Fine is as low as it goes. And you know what? I was thinking about that. I'm like, is my rating scale skewed? But I don't think it is. I think if I expect a movie might be bad, I don't go and see it.
Correct. I mean, yeah, that's the only bias that's in there. And there are reviewers who slowly skew to bitter bastard syndrome because they have to watch every single movie. You and I have the delightful capability to not watch things and not have to get angry for 2 hours and then feel the need to talk about them.
Yeah.
So it probably is fine.
That's fine. I mean, just real quickly to wrap up this conversation, since people are like, wait, but what did you think of Dark? What made it fine? It was on rails. I knew everything that was going to happen, and I just was never surprised or invested. It just never worked for me that way. But I was starting to like it towards the end. There's a cool train battle. I was like, oh, that's pretty fun. I'm enjoying that.
Put that on the poster. Dark Phoenix, quote, there's a cool train battle. That was kind of fun. Tom Merritt.
Cordkillers.
Underneath. Fine.
All right, folks, we are always trying to bring you our opinions and insights in an entertaining manner, and the reason we're able to is because of you. That is, if you are a patron at patreon.com/Cordkillers, and if you're not, you want to join in the fun right now. You get Spoilerin time early. You get an after show of our thoughts on lots of things, including how we do the show, that nobody else gets. And the only way you can get it is to become a member at patreon.com/Cordkillers.
Heck yeah. Don't forget, $1 an episode. That's not very much. That's less than a cup of coffee paid in installments over a 2-month period. Why don't you buy us a cup of coffee every 2 months that the two of us can split? If you want to buy one for each of us, you can spread out those installments over for 4 whole months.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. So please do it. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. We need the coffee. And now Quibi and how to watch. We've been talking about this in drips and drabs over the years. Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman getting together to create a streaming service. It's got investments from some AT&T folks and lots of, in fact, pretty much every company that is in Hollywood is invested in some way in what they're calling Quibi, which is short for Quick Bites. Quibi, we finally know, will launch April 6th next year, April 6th, 2020, for $5 a month if you're willing to put up with some short ads, 10 to 15 seconds, or $8 a month if you want to have no ads at all. Here's the thing. The service is going to be mobile only. Tablets, phones. That's it. They say 5G will mean more people watching on phones and tablets, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. They plan to have around 7,000 videos on the platform in the first year, so they're stocking it up with content. They're writing checks right and left. Episodes and series will be structured differently, though. Here, if you're like, wait, isn't this Go 90? Isn't this Vessel all over again? Quibi's videos are going to be played out in chapters. So, for instance, a 2-hour series would be played out in 7 10-minute chapters, perhaps, or 7 to 10-minute chapters for the course of the 2 hours. Katzenberg said this. Dan Brown, the author, has spoken about having 464-page novels with very short chapters. So if his readers didn't have 30 to 40 minutes to sit down and read, they could still have a good reading experience with however amount of time they had. So they're trying to apply that to phones and say, oh, if you only have 7 to 10 minutes to watch a video, you can still keep up with a series. They have raised billions of dollars. They're giving it to folks like Guillermo del Toro and Sam Raimi. Each one of them are doing a horror show. There's a show about the founding of Snapchat, kind of a documentary. There's #FreeRaySean, a drama series starring Stephen James and Lawrence Fishburne from Antoine Fuqua. There's a court show starring Chrissy Teigen, remake of MTV's Punk'd and Singled Out. Steven Spielberg is writing a horror series. Steven Spielberg doesn't write these days very much. Steven Spielberg is going to write a horror series that you can only watch at night. It asks your phone whether the sun has gone down before it will actually allow the video to be played. That'll be a 10 to 12 chapter story. And they plan to have 8 movies at launch, what they call movies, with 26 signature projects rolling out every other Monday for the first year. and some alternative non-scripted and daily essential stuff, kind of newsy reality show kind of things in there. All right. So now that I've given you the scoop on Quibi, Brian, how do you feel this will fare?
This is the part where my brain fully breaks in half. And there are two different versions of Brian. Evil Brian says, oh, I get it. Making it for mobile only is code for only for kids. That's dumb because kids only do stuff that is free. Kids aren't in a position to commit
when you
to...
say kids, though, you're not meaning 13 and younger. You mean like teens, right?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Or even up to... I don't
20s.
think... I'm convinced nobody under the age of 25 pays for anything on the internet.
Gotcha.
Full
Okay.
stop. Right?
So people in their 20s.
So
All right.
the exact people who are most targeted for your platform are the ones least likely, because there is no free version of this service, right? There's a pay for it and get ads service, which everybody agrees is garbage. And then there's a pay for it even more and get no ads version for it. So what this lacks is discovery with the exact audience that would be most likely to buy it. That's Evil Brian. He says doomed to failure.
All right.
Good Brian
Aw.
says there's always room for more virtualization. Twitch is about virtualizing the experience of finishing school at 3:30, going to your friend's house, sitting on the couch, watching him play a video game because it's his turn to play the video game for hours and hours and hours at a time. Let's virtualize that, make it smaller, package it up, and make it something that you can have emotes and a voice if you don't mind paying money. Likewise, the experience, what this is doing is virtualizing the experience of binge watching a thing. How many times have you had, everyone says, oh, you got to watch the thing. You got to watch the thing. You're like, oh, but it's just so big. There's so many of them. And then you start it and you're like, oh my God, this is candy. It's so good. And then you come out the other side like, I'm one of you now. I have binged the thing and it's really, really great. Now, what if that didn't take 13 hours, 8 seasons, whatever? What if you were able to have that experience in a mere 70 minutes? Because everything was designed to give you the exact same endorphin rush that you get from binging a big thing, only in a small way. And in that regard, I think here's how you know you have a good idea is when you look or a good brand, or at least have carved out some space that is ripe to be mined, is when you look around and you say, who's my competition? And the answer is nobody. Nobody's doing that. Nobody is essentially giving you the opportunity to freebase binging and get a very, very high ecstatic rush over 70 minutes and be done with it. And in that regard...
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, in that regard, good Brian could see this being a very, very smart play.
Since the beginning of Hulu, everyone has thought, well, YouTube is an accident, but we can do it right. That's what Vessel was. That's what Go90 was. And everybody takes those parts of the elephant that they see. Oh, people like watching on their phone. Oh, people like watching short things. Oh, people like watching personalities that they identify with, and they mash them together. What I can't tell with Quibi, after listening to Good and Bad Brian, who both had very excellent points, is whether Quibi is still just seeing parts of the elephant and saying, so we can rebuild an elephant, right? And people are like, yeah, but I don't want an elephant. Or if Quibi has cracked the code and suddenly people will say, oh my gosh, you have to see this Spielberg thing. Oh my gosh, you have to see this Guillermo del Toro thing. And it won't, like you say, and it won't take you 15 hours. You don't have to commit. You can just watch it little bits at a time. Will they be able to take the high production value compellingness that makes you pay for something, right? That makes you pay for Netflix right now, and match it with the convenience and serendipity of like, yeah, I just got some time. Let me see what's on YouTube. Let me just flip through the algorithm. Let me look at Facebook, catch some funny videos, maybe even on Twitter. That's what I don't believe they can do. I don't believe they can bridge that gap, because in the end, I think the idea of, oh, I just want to pick up my phone and watch some stuff doesn't involve, and I will pay $5 for it. Okay. Certainly doesn't involve, I'll pay $8 to not get ads for it. And I think that is just too hard of a barrier to overcome. However, all that said, to get back to Good Brian, if there was an idea that could do that, this is the closest I've heard to it yet.
I've held back my secret weapon that is my secret thought. And if they're smart, they're listening right now and they will do this. The only reason that we're convinced this cannot work is because there is no free option and that you must pay. And if they're smart, they will insist all the way up until release, up until the first 3 months of release, that you will never, ever have a free option for any of this. And they will slowly accrue a bunch of think pieces and buzzworthy articles saying 5 stars. This is really good. There's a bunch of really great stuff behind this paywall. And then, just like in the early 80s, remember every so often there would be a free HBO weekend? That's what they do. They insist that the service is never, ever free. They build up the cred from the quality of the content that they're putting out. And they say, okay, fine. This is our annual 1 week that it's free. Suddenly, everybody's talking about it, and all of the series end on a 6 out of 7 cliffhanger, and then it's back to pay. And it's like, hey, we'll be back next year. Next year it'll be free again. But other than that, it'll never ever be free.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll do a free sample. Absolutely, they'll do a week free trial. I don't know if that really overcomes the other problem, though. Well, because you're right.
So Bryce is chiming in saying that Vessel did this, but
Vessel did a very similar thing where
they started with it free and then went to paid.
No, they did
a free version of it for you. No, but you knew it was going to become paid at some point.
Well, yeah, they gave early adapters a free year of their premium, of their 2-year service.
Well, right. What I'm saying is they don't do that. What they deliberately hide behind a paywall from day one and say, we will never have a free tier of this product ever. But they will have 3, 4, 5 months in a free 1 week where an open house week, basically, where everyone could come in, visit, decide if this is the type of place you want to stay. I still have a problem,
though, because that's just a free sample that requires everybody to go, oh, I've been wanting to see that thing, but now it's free. Okay, that's great. But the other part of it isn't just free. It's easy. I don't have to download something special. I'm already on Facebook. I'm already on YouTube. I'm already on Twitter. It's really difficult for a TikTok to come along and carve out that space. And I think that's who their competition is. Their competition isn't Netflix. Their competition is not HBO Now. Their competition is, I'm picking up my phone with something to do. What is it? Because they limited it to mobile. There's no, I am never installing this on my Apple TV or my Roku, right? So it's only going to be when I'm like, I got some time. What's available, which means I now have to be like, oh, there's that Steven Spielberg thing. Oh, it's after sundown. Oh, I need to download the app. Is it the free weekend? There's just too many barriers to acceptance there. And the way these things catch on the phone is they go viral, and your friends tell you, oh my God, you have to see this thing. That could happen. There could be that one thing that enough people have paid to subscribe to go, you have to see this thing, that it gets people to go ahead and like, yeah, fine, I'll plop down $5 to check out this thing. But I'm not assured that that's going to happen. That's really hard to make happen.
You make a very compelling case, Evil Brian. But
I think I could play Evil Brian, couldn't I?
I can picture, like, imagine if Love, Death, and Robots had come out on this platform. And it got the same buzz that it has right now. Now, of course, the buzz that it has is because it happens to be on Netflix and more people are seeing it. But imagine it was that level of buzz. You are hearing about it all the time, and you knew you couldn't get it unless you took the leap. And you don't take the leap, but you continue to hear the buzz. And then 3 months from now, it's like, this is your 1 week. Give it a go. And then you dive in, and what are you going to do? You're going to watch as much of Love, Death, and Robots and other anthology.
I mean, I think they'll do, free trials. I don't see why they wouldn't. I think that's a great idea. I think you're absolutely right about that. It's whether they'll have that thing, right? That's the big question. Will there be that compelling thing like, oh, the free trial's happening? I've really been wanting to see that Sam Raimi thing.
I mean, it certainly sounds like from the level of talent. I suppose everything I've said, just retroactively, is assuming that the content is super, super quality because the names imply that there's lots of quality there.
Well, Go 90 had maybe some pretty high quality production value stuff too, and was free.
That's a legitimate
you
point.
You got to get over the barrier of I don't want to. People in the chat room are saying I don't want to pay for another streaming app. People don't even want to look at another streaming app. You're asking them to plan for their break time.
So, yeah.
I can't send you a link that says, oh my gosh, you got to check out Quibi. There's this amazing thing, right? I have to send you a message that says, hey, you should download Quibi, pay $4.99. Or if it's the free trial weekend, you don't have to.
The one thing that would have made this the perfect announcement or the perfect service was if this was in TikTok, if this was a part of TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
TikTok doing original content.
They could show the first 2 minutes of every single show totally free.
Sure.
And it's like, want the remaining 6 minutes?
So also Snapchat.
Click here for the in-purchase app. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Snapchat
honestly
did a similar thing.
I mean, this is treading into DTNS territory, but that's how things are working in the rest of the world outside of North America and Europe. You've got super apps in India, Southeast Asia, China, Korea, Japan. These apps are like, we're the app that everyone talks on. So if you want to get their attention and money, you have to be where they're talking. You have to be in that messaging app. These messaging apps aren't even messaging apps anymore, most of the world.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, we'll see if good Brian or evil Brian's right in a year.
Yeah. No, we got some time to wait on that. All right. Let's talk about what to watch in Under Surveillance.
It's all about location.
Under surveillance.
Hey, Brian, at WWDC last week, Apple showed a full-length trailer for one of its upcoming Apple TV Plus shows, For All Mankind, from Ronald Moore, telling the story of the Soviet Union landing a person on the moon first, which causes the space race to just keep going and never stop.
Tom, this is just more bluff and bluster from Apple TV, King of the Promises. Oh my God, I watched this trailer. It looks fucking awesome. Sorry, I cursed. I'm so excited. I'm stupid excited about this. Bryce just had to write a note to bleep that out. like this is like, what if First Man never ended? What if First Man was just like, now we got to try even harder. Imperialist America. It looks great. I love Ronald D. Moore. I loved Battlestar Galactica, even the ending. Yes, come at me. This looks fantastic. I'm so stoked. Tom, dare I say, quote, it's going to be great.
I mean, that's the beauty of your phrase. It could be. It could be great. And we're not stopping there. At E3, Rob McElhenney from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia came out on stage and announced that he, Charlie Day, and Megan Gans, three of the team, are teaming up with Ubisoft to create a TV show for Apple TV Plus called Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet. It's a mockumentary-style show about a game developer of a successful Warcraft-like MMO. And Netflix also bought the distribution rights for Ubisoft's Tom Clancy's The Division, an adaptation of the game from Ubisoft starring Jessica Chastain and Jake Gyllenhaal, with David Leitch, the guy who directed Deadpool 2 and Hobbs and Shaw, directing the TV series. So we go from, here's another Apple TV show trailer from Ubisoft into Ubisoft is starting to make television shows and showing them off at E3.
Yeah. So about that, why is Ubisoft showing TV shows at E3?
Because they can.
It was the second thing in their. It was 10 minutes into their presentation. What the hell?
Hey, you guys may laugh, but I think this is incredibly smart.
Okay.
Because you know who might actually be able to make a good video game into a TV show? If you involve the video game people in the production with the television show people. Granted, Rob McElhenney is not making a game. It's more of a mockumentary. So that one's a little farther afield. But yeah, if you get Jessica Chastain and Jake Gyllenhaal directed by David Leitch in The Division series, that seems really smart and a really smart thing for game companies to do.
Tom, I'd like to introduce you to 2012 Brian, who thought it was a really smart thing. Maybe I'm wrong on the year, but a real smart thing for the Xbox One to talk about what a good DVR it was going to be.
Which they actually apologized for still today or yesterday at E3.
So, I mean, in that regard, I understand your excitement. These are exciting properties. And so, of course, I'm thrilled to see anything from the Always Sunny crew. The trailer was very, very funny. Unless there's a secret back end where they make like some version of the titular game Mythic Quest in there that fans can ironically play, even though seriously, over time they start to actually fall in love with the game. This I've been burned once before. I very publicly was in favor of the way they were leaning in with the Xbox One for it being the hub of the living room. And it turns out I was capital WRONG wrong. So I'm not going to lean in very hard this time.
Well, here's where I think it is different. Is the Xbox was the Xbox. They were saying the Xbox is going to be this and all of these other things. And people said all those things sound awful because it wasn't just the living room stuff. It was also, and your games will be DRM'd available in the cloud. And so people are like, no, I don't want that. I want to buy a disc and put it in my game and play it. That's what I want. So it was tied in with a bunch of other stuff. Ubisoft, I think if they came out and said, hey, we're making these TV shows and we're also making a bunch of crappy games that no one likes, could fall into your Microsoft analogy. It doesn't seem like that happened. It seemed like people were still fairly normally excited about the rest of the lineup, Bryce, no?
And Ubisoft actually has a history of announcing these development deals. When Watch Dogs came out not long after your Xbox anecdote, Ubisoft was on stage saying, here's Watch Dogs, and we sold Sony the rights to develop it. So who knows? Like I would bet the Rob McElhaney thing is Ubisoft did all the machinima work on this, and there was some sort of money deal. And the same thing for this Netflix distribution deal. Netflix isn't making this. This is just a distribution deal. So
and that's why it's also different than Microsoft saying everything is in the thing we make. It's weird. I get it that Ubisoft does this at E3 on stage when people are slobbering to hear about the games. But maybe they're like, we know that our hardcore audience will maybe be distracted by this, but it's important for us to get it in front of the world press that we're doing this. Because what is good about it is it's not Ubisoft producing it. It's not Ubisoft distributing it. It's not going to show up in Ubisoft games. It's Ubisoft saying, hey, we got some money from people to let them do this. And I think you're right. The machinima stuff in the Rob McElhenney piece probably was done in-house by Ubisoft, but it won't impact the game development. This is stuff that was made for Apple and will show on Apple, for Netflix, will show on Netflix. And so to me, it's quite a bit different than the Microsoft thing.
Sure. I guess I'm not saying it'll be bad. I think it'll actually be quite good. My only hot take is that bit weird. It's just a bit weird.
So weird.
I mean, where else is Ubisoft going to announce it, though? Maybe that's all it was.
Well, I mean, that's
I guess we announced it at E3. I mean, it's the only press conference we have.
Well, so. And that's what happens is that you build up a brand value for, like, we talk about at Scam Stuff that there are certain buttons you can press, and you can only press them so many times and so hard, and you can only press so far out of its category. For example, if Ubisoft were to acquire exclusive licensing rights to Astronaut Ice Cream, the only place they would have to announce it would be at E3. That doesn't mean it would necessarily be a fit with their core brand, but that would be the loudest way to announce it.
Although Razer did announce powdered energy drinks.
Yeah.
The Good Place will end its story after season 4 next year. NBC says that when you count multiple platforms and streaming, it is the network's most watched show right now. But creator Mike Schur said that they mapped out the trajectory of the show after it got picked up for season 2, came up with 4 seasons, and Schur says, in a quote, at times over the past few years, we've been tempted to go beyond 4 seasons, but mostly because making the show is a rare, creatively fulfilling joy. And at the end of the day, we don't want to tread water just because the water is so warm and pleasant.
Yeah, I figured there are 3 different, I think this is a fine statement, and I think it probably reflects at least some percentage of what's genuinely in their hearts. I think they did a good job of rejecting the first possibility that this is a cover-up for their numbers not being good and they're being canceled and they want to save face. I do believe that a substantial amount of this comes from the heart where they are. One thing that I've not seen anybody address is how much of this sentiment and this decision on all sides comes from the fact that in Hollywood, once you have a slam dunk grand slam hit, that's 2 metaphors, that you have a lot of opportunities knocking at your door. our one of our new producers, John Rael, he mentioned that his dream when he spent 20 years in Hollywood before he came and joined us at the Mono Rogue here. He said his dream was always to have one very good season of a TV show and then get fired so that he would have leverage and positioning to do whatever he wanted afterwards. And then first thing I thought when I heard that was, I was like, oh, that's what happened with Hacking the System. And I was like, you're right. It's a pretty good gig. And then the second thing I thought of was when looking at this, I was like, seems to me like if you're the guys that made The Good Place, maybe you have some pretty good opportunities to do other things.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. That could be it. I don't think it is. And there's really no way to tell.
I'm not saying it. I'm saying some percentage of it.
If it was it, they would say exactly the same thing as they're saying now. And if it wasn't it, they would say exactly the same thing they're saying now. So, I mean, you basically what I think we're ended up saying to you folks is choose to believe whatever you like, because there's really no way of telling. But I like the sentiment. And the sentiment has been growing. So there is a track record of this happening more often, of saying, hey, if you make us do 5 or 6 seasons of this, it won't be good. And networks agreeing with that and saying, you know what? Okay, fine. Let's end it where it should end. I think we will get better stories if that becomes the precedent for whatever reason.
Well, and it could be the kind of thing where networks are like, they're like, look, I don't feel like my project should go longer than 4 seasons. I understand your reasons for wanting it to go longer. How about this? I will give you a first look option at the next 5 things I come up with in exchange for letting me wrap this up when the project needs to be wrapped up. Like, that's the kind of sentiment that I suspect is
we
happening.
have no idea whether that's the case or not, but it certainly could be. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
CBSN, which is the free news streaming service from CBS, you can get it on apps and on the website, has launched its second local version. So CBSN New York launched back in December, and CBSN Los Angeles is the new one. It features the regular weekday local newscasts from KCBS and KCAL, which are sister stations here in Los Angeles, as well as 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. streaming-only versions of the newscast. So it uses the anchors and reporters that exist at the local stations, as well as some dedicated producers just for the streaming stuff. Boston and San Francisco are set to get local versions later this year. For a long time, I've wondered what will happen to local stations in a world where you don't need local stations to carry the network programming. And it seems like this is one possibility, is you say, you know what local stations do mostly is news. So let's use that and make it available.
Yeah. So I assume what they're going to do is they're going to, since it'll be a streaming station, you'll have the simulcast of the primary programs. I assume that the streaming only versions essentially become a farm league. You got young up and coming talent that want to work their way up the ladder. They got to prove themselves, get flight time.
It sounds like the streaming only newscast would have the anchors from KCBS and KCAL, but yeah, my guess is your 5:30 news anchor probably is not the one that does the 7 a.m. and the 1 p.m. But you know, maybe your weekend anchors do.
But here's the biggest thing: is for local breaking news, talking mainly about weather or insane natural disasters or whatever, like. You want to know where's the one place I go, and we've had a couple of severe weather events just in the last month, and thank goodness the internet was still on. Otherwise, I wouldn't know how I'd know about them because.
Just for clarity though, this is CBSN LA, so it'll be car chases. But otherwise, yeah, absolutely.
And earthquakes, and wildfires, and Hollywood people doing Hollywood stuff.
But mostly car chases.
But my point is, I think this is a smart take because it costs them nothing more in production to simulcast the local news. Cost them very little more to either squeeze more out of their existing anchors or set up a farm team for the next generation. And then and they genuinely will want to be there at the ready when there's a major event locally.
Yeah, this is a great solution for big markets, where those big market stations are like, hey man, if you're just going to be putting stuff up on your NBC streaming service or your CBS All Access, what does that do to us? And CBS gets to say, hey, we've got a plan for your staff, for you to stay relevant. It may not keep everybody employed. It may not bring in the same amount of money, but here it is. I don't know how far down this scales. When you start getting to those lower 50 markets, which aren't even owned and operated by CBS, I'm not sure where it goes from there.
Yeah.
Universal Content Productions is developing a Punky Brewster follow-up starring Soleil Moon Frye, the original Punky Brewster, as a single mother of 3 trying to get her life back on track when she meets a young girl who reminds her of herself. If you don't remember, Punky Brewster ran for 4 seasons on NBC from 1984 to 1988.
So it feels to me like all of these things, I used to think of these as naked cash grabs, but now I'm realizing what they are is they are one-time free passes to audition good storytelling, because this could be a good story that could exist under a non-brand name and go nowhere. But because it has the words Punky Brewster and because it stars Soleil Moon Frye, if it is good, it has the chance to take off and go somewhere. And I think that's we saw that with Cobra Kai. It happened to be good.
Yeah.
But it never would have gone anywhere if it didn't happen to have the Karate Kid background.
Yeah, the key is not to lean on the nostalgia. The key is to use the nostalgia as the launching point to tell a new story. Like
Exactly.
All right, real quickly, some notes. Hulu's going to stream the first 3 Veronica Mars seasons starting July 1st. That's ahead of the new 8-episode series coming July 26th. Gina Davis has been cast in a recurring role in 5 episodes of season 3 of Glow, coming to Netflix August 9th. Love, Death, and Robots, we mentioned earlier, has got a 2nd season. It'll be coming back to Netflix at some point. Netflix has also ordered an animated series called Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, set in the same timeline as the 2015 Jurassic World movie. That's coming to Netflix next year. Warner Media's streaming service has ordered Dune, The Sisterhood, with Denis Villeneuve directing the pilot and John Spates set to write. Spates and Villeneuve, of course, co-writing the screenplay for the film reboot of Dune. Dune's film reboot coming November 20th, 2020. Warner Media also ordered a 10-episode drama called Tokyo Vice, starring Baby Driver's Ansel Elgort. Sandra Bullock, Akiva Goldsman, and John Legend will produce a music and dance 1980s drama comedy for Amazon inspired by Bullock's college years at East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina. She went there from 83 to 87. Created and written by Casey Perry, who's worked on CW's The Originals and TNT's Constance. And finally, The Hollywood Reporter says HBO has canceled Vice News Tonight, which was launched shortly before the 2016 U.S. presidential election, and Vice is out shopping the show to other networks.
Out of all of those, I'm strangely the most surprised by the cancellation of Vice. I didn't watch it myself, but the segments that I saw seemed fairly well produced. I know it was fairly mockable as what was the mockumentary show?
Documentary Now.
Documentary Now. But in general, I thought there were times that they hit brief periods of brilliance in that show.
Yeah, I mean, it may be that thing where everybody admired it and never watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, what do you had your eyes on lately, Brian?
Man, little show, I don't know if you've heard of it, called Good Omens. It's guess what? Good. It's a great show. We'll talk about it in Spoilerin time. I watched the first 3 episodes of that. I watched The Office. My beautiful saint of a wife jumped in front of the president and took a bullet right in the heart and took the kids to go see Secret Life of Pets 2, which she told me was not as bad as the first one. So good on you, Bonnie.
Outgrossed Dark Phoenix.
Yeah. So did I. No.
Wasn't hard. You're right. I watched all 3 episodes of Black Mirror. For some fortuitous reason, we decided to watch the Miley Cyrus one first because we had heard that all 3 of them were bad. And we're like, well, but at least we'll get to see Miley Cyrus. That'll be interesting. That we watched that one. Then we watched the one with Sam and Mantis from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, playing entirely different characters. And then we finished with Smithereens, which I felt like was the best of the 3. And I don't know if it was the accident of the order I watched them in, but the Miley Cyrus one was not nearly as bad as I had been led to believe. The second one was decent, had an interesting trope. My complaint with both of them were they lasted too long. They felt like half-hour episodes of Black Mirror stretched to an hour. Smithereens, on the other hand, had me engaged minute 1 to minute end. I was into that one. So I highly recommend if you're going to try to watch all 3, watching them in that order, or if you just want to watch the good one, watch Smithereens.
Wow. And this is, from what I've heard online, they are doing the randomized order for these three. So
similar to what they did with Love, Death, and
for
Robots.
Love, Death, and Robots. So you may have to be a little more active in doing that.
I was suggested to watch Miley last. I ignored the suggestion.
So on the other hand, Bryce, what should we be on the lookout for?
So on the lookout is Black Mirror. Black Mirror's back.
What?
But if people don't know what Black Mirror is, it's an anthology science fiction series. A lot of it is about the horrors and the what ifs of future technologies, near future tech. So this new season is 3-hour-long episodes, and they are all over 60 minutes. And I think it keeps going from last season's trend of going away from very horrific and despair-filled stories. So these are a little softer. But I think they're all pretty strong stories, and they're all a little light on the tech stuff, honestly. But it also feels different. I think it feels different, and if you're not too caught up on what makes, quote, a Black Mirror story, I think you might be interested. I really like Striking Vipers the most, but I really did like the Miley Cyrus episode also. All the musical bits in it are stuck in my head. So those 3 new episodes of Black Mirror, plus all of the previous ones and Bandersnatch, are streaming on Netflix.
If you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Now, folks, we always like to take a moment during Cordkillers to mention other projects we have, but you don't have time for that. So let me just make it easy. You want to keep up with all my other projects? freetomnewsletter.com. freetomnewsletter.com. I email you once a week, and you can email me right back and I'll answer it. It's a personal conversation with me. I tell you all the shows that I've been doing, including Spoilerin Time and Cordkillers, and let's talk about Star Wars and Sword and Laser. I keep you up to date on my writing. So I've been putting out some secret files from a fictional story that I've been working on that maybe I don't even want to make into a book, but there's only one way to get it. And if you want to find out what that way is, you got to go to freetomnewsletter.com.
How much does it cost, Tom?
Free.
I mean, but like in dollars.
0.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Yeah.
I'll sign up.
But how many euros, Tom?
None.
Oh.
Hold on. Yep. Nope. Conversion goes right. None. All right. Let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
Hey, we're still waiting on an official announcement and details on what would be included, but sources have been leaking their lips to Wall Street Journal reporters that Warner Media's new streaming service will bundle HBO, Cinemax, and a library of movies and TV shows from Warner Media for between $16 and $17 a month. Remember, we were talking a lot like how much can they charge for this when HBO alone costs $15 a month. There's also supposed to be a less expensive ad-supported service under consideration. None of this stuff has been decided yet. A beta is, however, expected later this year with a full launch to follow in March.
Could you imagine them injecting ads into HBO properties? I guess
I just can't. Yeah.
Well, but I guess some of them have shown up in syndication outside of the HBO ecosystem, didn't?
Yeah, they
Larry
show up in
yeah.
like Prime Video and stuff for sure. Yeah.
Meanwhile, a new version of tvOS for the Apple TV is coming later this year, and it'll have a redesigned home screen with a full screen video previews. Apple will also introduce profiles so users can have their own customized up next lists on the laptop and desktop. From the next version of the macOS, will break iTunes into 3 apps for TV, music, and podcasts. This is all stuff that people have been begging for a long time, right?
Yeah, it's going to be great.
TM.
Prime Video subscribers can now add the Epix movie service as an add-on for $5.99 a month. Epix offers movies along with its own originals. If you're excited about Pennyworth, the Batman prequel about Bruce Wayne's butler Alfred, you'll want to get it from Epix. And now, among the other ways you can get Epix, it involves Prime Video. If that's your thing.
Are you excited about this? Because I just feel like they're going to make him Kingsman the Alfred, right?
I'm not excited enough to pay $6 a month. No.
Yeah. Variety estimates that U.S. broadcast networks will get 3 to 5% more ad dollars for the fall schedule than it did last year. Variety states a lack of transparency and digital ad effectiveness by Facebook, difficulty in managing influencers on Instagram, and Twitter and content issues on YouTube contributing to the increased broadcast ad spend. Despite declining viewership, cable networks are not seeing the increase as much. So this to me, in an alternate universe, 2 years ago, Tom, I think I would have insisted that we make this the primary target.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like this is just slosh. right? This is not. We all know that people are no longer watching broadcast networks in the amount they are, but there was a lot of, I think, unwarranted movement of money into digital. I think the money is going to continue to move into digital, but it started to move a little too fast, and now it's like, oh wait, those didn't pay off. Let's put it back here on this safe bet, so I won't get fired for a while. And I think it'll start moving back because there will be ways to put advertising dollars in this new Warner Media thing and in the NBC thing and even in Quibi. There'll be places for ads there that will play by the rules that people who buy television ads are used to playing by.
Yeah, and part of the wonderful side effect of getting old and being in this biz for over a decade now means that you notice little things, like when somebody comes knocking on your door offering money and you're like, okay, and what's the accountability? And they're like, there is none. And then it's like, okay, so I guess that's somebody somewhere said there's money in them their Twitters. Make sure they use #ad. And then it's like, no, let's give vape pens to 16-year-olds and have them do vape tricks. Sure, nothing will fly.
What could possibly go wrong?
Right. Let's do all our money in YouTube. It's not like we'll be supporting white nationalists. Oh dear.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't. I think it's easy to overinterpret this, but I think also it just shows that broadcast networks aren't dead. They're just in a slow decline, and we don't even know where they'll bottom out.
Yep. Agreed.
Netflix has hired 20th Century Fox's Spencer Klein as director of theatrical distribution. Klein will oversee the distribution of Netflix's award season slate, which includes Martin Scorsese's The Irishman and Steven Soderbergh's The Laundromat. Scorsese reportedly wants a wide rollout, which means Klein's job is to push theaters to reduce that 90-day window.
Over under on his chances of success.
All right, so he is filling in the role that was left vacant after the previous director of theatrical distribution for Netflix died unexpectedly in January. That person oversaw Roma. Roma did play in theaters, and it had a limited theatrical window. That was enough to get it good Academy Award consideration. It actually won an Academy Award in the foreign language category, but I don't think he's going to make that 90-day window budge. Not a bit.
Not yet, anyway. Meanwhile, Deadline has a story updating you on the Netflix top 10 most watched list in the UK, showing that for whatever reason, people are interested. Renee Zellweger's thriller What/If moved to the top spot, and rom-com Always Be My Maybe and Avi DuVernay's miniseries When They See Us moved into that list as well. Now that we're in the age of the top 10 of Netflix, do we care?
I still don't think this tells you much because Netflix has very different reasons for keeping a show around or not, which is usually why we want to know ratings. Like, oh, the ratings aren't good. Maybe this show's not going to stick around. Maybe I need to start a letter writing campaign. This doesn't tell you that. This just shows you what people in the UK are watching on Netflix, which I don't know, still kind of fascinating.
Well, and,
right?
and I think you and I experienced in a very personal way when we took our show off the network and went independent. All of a sudden, like, I honestly don't know how many people listen or watch our show, but I do know how many patrons that we have,
yeah,
and
right?
how much per episode that they've pledged. It's funny how those incentives change your whole perspective.
Yeah, I was surprised that Always Be My Maybe wasn't higher given the buzz. So there's also that kind of like reality check of like, oh, a lot of people are talking about it, but maybe just a lot of people are talking about it. That may not be as representative. Not saying that people aren't watching it, but given the amount of people talking about it, I thought it'd be a clear top spot. So yeah.
These are still UK numbers, right?
Yeah.
And they're just UK, right? It could be a total top spot in the US for sure. All right, let's get to the dispatches from the front. Steve Lamb writes, gentlemen, I signed up for HBO on the Apple TV app on my iPhone. This is important. The TV app on his iPhone. Since I saw you could download shows to watch later. That was one of the things when you sign up for a service through the TV app, you get downloadable shows. HBO's app on its own doesn't allow you to download the shows. Great. Steve says, imagine my disappointment when I found out you can't send it to your TV using Apple's Lightning to HDMI adapter. It's restricted. I can stream using said adapter to TV, but not shows I have downloaded. This would come in handy when we RV, since most campgrounds have lousy Wi-Fi unless you go to the clubhouse. This kind of stuff causes unrest. Frowny emoji. I feel better now. Thanks, Steve Ladd. Well, you're welcome, Steve.
Shouldn't you be able to do some version of AirPlay to the TV?
You need Wi-Fi.
Well, here's the thing. To AirPlay, you need to have either an Apple TV or one of the newer TVs that has AirPlay built in.
Right.
In most cases, that means you'll also have an HBO app on that device, which means you could just log into that HBO app.
Well, but he's specifically talking about the scenario of going camping, and he just wants to be able to plug in his phone that has the downloaded video and play it on the television.
But he doesn't have the Apple TV device. He has the Apple TV app on his phone.
Right, but he does have a gizmo that allows him to attach his phone to.
You can do an adapter out of the Lightning port into HDMI. That's
Right.
what he wants. He just wants to carry that cable with him,
Right.
and plug it into the TV in the campground, and then watch his show.
I agree.
But he's not letting him do that with the downloaded version because he probably doesn't have internet connectivity.
Oh no! I assume what it is I read this as a DRM thing because HDMI has that
correct.
copyrighted content stuff.
No. That's what I'm saying. I think the key here is like even if he had an Apple TV with the HBO app, he still couldn't use it because he doesn't have connectivity. So the key is he's downloaded it. He has no connectivity. And he wants to connect it. Why can't he do that? You know what? An Apple TV might work in that situation if you brought your own router. Because, okay, again, we're assuming he has no connectivity, which is why he wants to watch it downloaded. Right. So if he had his own router and an Apple TV and plugged those in, then he could screen mirror from his iPhone through the router on the same Wi-Fi network, even though he has no connectivity, and it quite possibly would work. That's a long way to go to make that happen.
I mean, certainly we agree with your sentiment that this sucks and it should be fixed. I 100% agree.
It won't be fixed. You hit it. You nailed it, Brian. It's DRM. Probably the way they got HBO to agree to let them make this downloadable was to say, as long as it's restricted to mobile, we're fine with that.
Right.
We don't want people to be able to download it and watch it on their TV because reasons.
We got one email saying that I am getting sick and tired of having to go between over a half dozen sites to find my movie. Instead of to combat this, I'm going to go back to the past and owning a digital copy on my local computer, or more specifically a NAS, network attached storage. That's the issue that I have is I wanted to get to work on multiple screens, and the best way I could see to do that is with the Plex server. Since the last time I did this was back in the early 2000s, I could use a little bit of recommendations on which one to grab that'll be able to deliver some content to his various computers throughout the house. Thank you in advance. Love the show and take care. Oh, I think we accidentally deleted his name from the doc. This one above my pay grade. Tom, do you have a suggestion on this?
Well, if you don't want to always go to different sources, you could just buy the movies from a store. Just pick a store and buy the movies from them and then watch them that way.
Well, but not all movies are available on all stores.
Almost all movies are available in most stores with very occasional rares. If, however, you just happen to own a lot of digital copies of movies and you just wanted to have them on a server, then you would need a Plex server and recommendations on which one to grab. I don't know. I mean, you just download the Plex server on any computer you have. It should work really well. But if anybody's got some recommendations on hardware that works particularly well for Plex and is inexpensive, let us know and we'll pass it along.
Yeah. Oh, also, we kicked it out to the folks. We wanted to hear opinions for people who watched the Deadwood movie but did not watch Deadwood.
Oh, right. Yeah. Good experiment. Audi Norman says, I'm one of those who didn't watch Deadwood. He tried several points, just didn't work for him. But I just finished the Deadwood movie and I wanted to share my fresh thoughts. Here goes. First, my main issue is it just felt small. If it didn't have movie as part of the title, maybe I'd feel different. But this did not feel like anything other than a TV movie on any other network. I feel like they just didn't aim for anything other than a couple of episodes to close the series. I come back to the whole idea of what I think of a movie feels different from what I watched, especially the way it just kind of ended. Second, the only small nitpicky thing for me that stood out was the flashbacks. That seemed like total fan service and completely took me out of it. Again, made it feel like just part of the show instead of a movie. Every single one of the actors could have carried those with dialogue and their acting chops.
Yeah, I can't.
I would have thought the flashbacks would be the one thing that makes someone who never saw the series feel like, oh, okay, so that happened in the past. Got it. Great.
Maybe
I liked them.
Maybe we have the curse of knowledge in that we just assumed they had to be there to tell the story. But he makes a very good point when he says every single one of the actors could have carried those with dialogue. Like, we didn't need to flash back to that moment to know that significant plot device switching of things in order to cover up for a thing happened.
But Bryce, you said you liked it.
I generally liked them. I think if they didn't have it, it would feel even cheaper.
If they just mentioned, if
remember the whore that we cut?
Right.
Like, well, then, like, could you at least show me some of this? You couldn't afford some blood or something?
Or fair enough. Right. But I do agree that, yes, it did feel small, but I think in a weird way that's what I wanted. And also, yes, I agree. It just did sort of just end.
It just stops.
Like we know for a fact that dude didn't die in jail. Like whatever.
Yeah, no, of course. And I was fine with that. But I think what is so valuable, and I want to thank Audie for writing in, is I don't think this works as a movie. I think you really do need to see this as the capper, the special long finale.
The coda.
Deadwood.
The coda that we were all craving. The crave coda soda.
Crave Coda. Get it at your local grocer.
And by the way, Steve S. every so often writes us these wonderfully long emails, and I adore every single one of them. And this one, he talked about the nature of the hero's journey, and he talked all based on some comment I had made last week about experiencing joy and finding optimism in the possibility that the new Akira movie would be good. But the part that really stuck out to me was, and I quote, he says, "Thank you, Lot, for another fine show. It is a pleasure to invite you into my living room twice a week. A lot of YouTube shows are interesting, but do not feel as friendly as yours does." And I thought that was really precious to me, partly because it reminded me that a lot of our fans, a significant portion of our fans, are watching us on YouTube. And we encourage you guys to do the same thing. If you go to youtube.com, not /Cordkillers, right? It's /Cordkillers show.
I think you have to Google Cordkillers.
Yeah, just Google Cordkillers.
Cordkillers.com. Hey, Cordkillers.com.
Cordkillers.com
There you
has
go.
it embedded.
Yeah, got it.
Right.
Thank you very much, Steve S.
Yes, thank you, Steve S. Thank you, all of you. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack, which is also carried on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We will cut your cords again next week, or kill them or something. We'll do it then.
We'll hug them to death. Hey guys, Brian and Tom here, and it's just the same old message at the end of the credits, just like always.
That's right, Brian. Nothing new here except your name showing up.
Oh my gosh,
because
I've got a
you
name.
just supported us on Patreon.
Yeah, all those $5 donors, look at that. That's your name in pixels. We're gonna make you famous, kid. Put your
There's
name in
some
pixels on
classic
the internet.
names in there, but some of you are new. Some of you aren't there. It's sad. What can they do, Brian?
I mean, they could go to patreon.com/Cordkillers and pledge $5 an episode and be one of these amazing people, like this one.
Amazing.
Oh, look at that name right there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.